Rail 2017 here at the Dubai International Convention and Exhibition Center. And I'm very pleased to be joined by Helmut Scholze. He's a partner at Roland Berger. Thank you so much for joining me today. Roland Berger is a German consultancy company and you're here at Middle East Rail. Tell me what you guys are doing.
Well, as one of the top consulting firms in the world, we of course have a presence here in the region. We're now here since 2006 and consult clients across all industries. Transportation is one of our core focus areas, and we are actually the exclusive sponsor for the Middle East Rail Conference from the consulting firm side, and are very happy to provide presentations and know-how to this conference.
Your presentation you just held, what was that all about?
We had a presentation about the key success factors for creating non-fare box revenues as a railway operator.
First, brief me on what that is.
If you look at railway operators and how they make their money, there's two ways to do that. One, of course, with the tickets you sell. The other one is ancillary revenues. So you can make money with advertising, you can make money with retail in the stations, you can make money with real estate developments, and we were talking about the latter part.
Tell me what you think. What will be the changes that we see here with the railway industry in the next couple of years? What's going to happen?
First of all, there's two areas that are developing. One is there's a lot of focus on the urban transport arena. So the mass transit operators are building up the network. Public transport is becoming more and more widespread. Dubai is in that sense quite ahead, but of course also the neighboring countries are building up their networks. On the other side, you also have the classic railway, long-distance railway networks, both on the freight and passenger side, where you will see a shift of the freight transportation from the road to the tracks. And on the other side, you will also have, at some point of time, connectivity of the metropolitan areas in the region through the railway.
We have the red line, we have the green line here in Dubai, the two metro lines. What do you see as the biggest challenge for the transportation industry or the transportation landscape? And what I'm getting at here is the fact that these two lines go from left to right and from top to bottom, but not really connecting, let's say, the Arabian ranches with Palm Jumeirah. So how can those two lines that are being built sort of connect the Emirates more, or Dubai as particular, and then further on, the United Arab Emirates?
If you look at the metro network in Dubai, which just started 6 years ago, I think per se it's important to see it's a huge success story. Yeah? Metro is the core public transport means in Dubai nowadays. The, let's say, challenges, as you put it, right now, of course, is still because we're in an early stage of the network development. You need to create the last and first mile solutions. So in order to people to use the metro, you need to make them come to the metro. You cannot come with a metro to every house door. So you need to have a well-functioning feeder network. So the bus system is increasingly built up. The bus network has more and more routes. There will also be a bus rapid transport system coming. And on top of that, the network itself needs to also have more density. So there is 3 additional lines planned, particularly, of course, in light of the 2020 Expo, there will be also a connection to the Expo area.
Looking at the GCC in general, how much money is being invested into transportation or into rail tracks and the infrastructure surrounding it?
If you look at the, let's say, total volume of projects that have been announced and are partially underway and partially operational and need some reinvestments, you look roughly at a range of $200 to $250 billion. That includes investments made both in long-distance railway networks as well as urban transit.
What everyone's talking about, the big craze these days, is driverless cars, a driverless transportation system. And it is being discussed here as well, in Dubai, in the UAE in general. Do you see this coming? Is this going to happen within the next few years?
Absolutely. I think Dubai, as in some other areas as well, is at the forefront of driving that development. Just recently they announced the first autonomous aerial vehicle. Yeah? That means we will have at some point of time flying autonomous taxis. Yeah? The first prototype actually was presented just last week ago at RTA and supposedly have to have a 20-minute range of flight. But aside from these right now maybe sounding a bit more futuristic options, there's a clear target set. Dubai has set itself the target to achieve 25% autonomous traffic by 2030. It's an excellence driven by His Highness, and this is clearly an indicator how the landscape will change.
If this is on the agenda, a driverless car and flying taxis environment, why doesn't the UAE skip public transportation and just go for driverless cars altogether, which are easier to use because it takes you from your point where you are now to your final destination immediately, rather than you hopping onto a metro, taking the train down to the other end of town, and then taking another driverless car. So it's much like, what I'm getting at is, you could do the same that Africa did with the landlines. You just skip landlines and just go from having nothing to mobile.
That's actually a nice, let's say, reference. Still, you need to look at the facts that create traffic in a city. Public individual transport, even if it's not necessarily my own car, but if I'm riding with a taxi, or I have car sharing, or I have autonomous vehicles, I think is one way to move to certainly away from, let's say, pure individual traffic. But at the end of the day, if you want to avoid a complete traffic infarct, you need to have mass transport means such as metro or bus or trams, which provide a core backbone of the transportation in the city. It is maybe a little bit more difficult to implement that in cities that are not having that high density than, for example, Asian cities. But it's a core to have, on a long-term perspective, a functioning transport network in the city.
Let's get back to rail tracks and the infrastructure around it. Can you put a number on it? Is there a formula that you at Roland Berger have where, let's say, $1 billion is being invested into the infrastructure and rail tracks? How much comes out for, let's say, looking at the gross domestic product of a nation like the UAE?
If you refer back to, for example, the $200 to $250 billion investments made in the region, it is. You don't have an absolute number. You can look at it typically in a way of three effects. You create direct effects, indirect effects, and induced effects. There's the direct investments that are made, there's the indirect investments that relate to that, and there's effects such as labor, etc., which is increased in the region through these investments made. Typically, if you looked in some of the examples in the past where you managed to keep a large portion of the investments within the country, you can talk about a GDP effect of roughly 1% to 2%, which maybe sounds small, but is, in terms of GDP, actually quite a big number.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Helmut. Helmut Scholze, partner at Roland Berger.
Thank you very much.